Hi, I'm Roman and this is Massive Voodoo TV. This video kicks off a series about color theory. Learn why color theory is important and learn to understand and use color theory. This video is all you need to understand the color wheel properly. In this video I will take you on a tour to the full color wheel, make you understand why it's called a color wheel, make you understand how colors are mixed, and I will show you how to use the knowledge out of the color theory for your own workbench at home.
You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.
This video is everything you need to understand the full color wheel from now on for your miniature painting. Most of us had color theory back when they were kids. Now with painting miniatures you get in contact with color theory and the color wheel again. Have you ever only used your primary colors to paint one full miniature? Basically you can paint a miniature with just using 3 colors, your primaries. The primary colors are yellow, magenta or red, and cyan or blue. I will talk about these variations later on in this video. From your primaries, you can mix your secondaries. Your secondary colors are violet, green and orange. They are mixed by mixing 2 primaries together. Understanding the color wheel makes everything easy. There is actually no need to be scared of the color theory and the color wheel when you are a beginner, intermediate or professional painter. We are all trained to be recipe painters. We have these tons of colors like paints everywhere. I got mine placed like this in my bottle holder because I never care about names of paints. I care about the tonality. To properly understand painting, you need to understand how colors work and what's inside that color. You need to learn to read colors. There are 2 ways in our hobby how you can bring paint to a miniature. There's bringing makeup to a miniature and there's painting. Makeup sounds a little bit harsh, but it's not meant as an offense. Let me explain it to you. It's basically when you work with recipes, you do one step after another and you completely work with that receipt like cooking, so you can get that certain result. So recipes are very important, for example, for army painting or following tutorial to understand or to copy something to learn from somebody else. A receipt is necessary. But what if your receipt could be what you observe? If you start learning to read colors out there in nature, around you, in movies, from other painters, you can read colors and their tonality. When you learn to read your colors properly, you can remix them and use them in your projects. Anytime something happens like, oh, this looks rough, this looks off, this doesn't work, this doesn't fit, this color does not fit on top of the other, you will be able to handle this issue because you can read the colors and you will understand what's missing. You will understand what is missing or what problem occurred during your paint job. I can guarantee you, if you look closely, you will benefit greatly from this video. To paint your own color wheel, in the links below you can find a worksheet that you can print and use for free, of course, and then follow everything I'll do in this video. I can guarantee you, if you look closely and if you work through that color wheel on your own, you and your painting journey will benefit greatly from this video. A color consists of pigment, a binder, and in our miniature painting world, also considering the manufacturer, there might be some medium inside like a flow improver or a matte varnish, so that colors have different options in the use and in their drying result. Let's have a basic quick look on how colors are produced. Even cavemen created colors. First, they smeared poop to a wall and tried to draw a mammoth or something, or a saber-tooth. But then they realized the poop is falling off when it dries. So they had to find something to bind these pigments. They were, for example, using ash and coal and then added blood to it, or added the clear white of an egg to it. This is the basic binder of pigments. Of course, back then they didn't have so many different colors like we have today. Our colors today are basically produced in big factories and are mixed there. And don't think that everybody who produces colors is just doing this at home or in their studio or in their company. No, they actually go to a factory and tell them, hey, we want these pigments together to have this tone and this tonality. And we want to have this special thing in our color, for example, matte varnish, flow improver or something like that. This is how our miniature painting colors are produced. The quality of the paint or the quality of the color is calculated in the number of pigments that is used to create this color. The intensity of the pigments, the density of the pigments. Means, for example, with water-based colors like acrylics, there's a certain amount of pigments going into a color. There's a certain amount of pigments going into 100 milliliter.
Everything is based on color theory. Painting means you use the knowledge of color theory. Doing makeup to miniatures means you're following a recipe, and this recipe guides you through the project. Frankly speaking, you don't need so many paints. They can help you on one hand, but on the other hand, they can also limit you. Very important is the understanding of your colors that you use.
First of all, it's really important to know the difference in the colors you use. There are inks, washes, normal acrylic paints, contrast paints. Let's have a look on these.
I will not speak about any other type of color than acrylic colors in this video, as these other colors deserve their own topics.
There are normal acrylic paints. They have a good amount of pigment. They are not heavily thinned. Sometimes they have some special things inside, like matte varnish or flow improver, to dry differently. They do have a good coverage and can be thinned down with water. Then we got artist acrylic paint that you can mainly buy in artist stores. There are different types of these colors depending on the number of pigments. You will quickly find out how the quality of the pigment is by their price. The more expensive colors very often have more pigment quality. They come in larger tubes, they last longer. Very often they are thicker. They can be thinned down with water to your needs. They have a higher number of pigments compared to our hobby paints. And very often they don't have anything special inside, they're pure. We will talk about these later when we also have a look on our wet palette. What is the difference between our hobby acrylic paints and our artist paints? Since several years I'm teaching a lot of people in miniature painting. And what I realize is that it's not uncommon that our hobby paints, with all that stuff mixed inside, flow improver, matte varnish, a little gloss varnish or something like that, drying retarder, these things, when you mix them up and when you dilute them with water, they bring difficulties. Difficulties not because you cannot paint, but difficulties because some of these elements don't work well together, including water. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that our hobby paints are bad. I'm saying that if you don't know what's going on in that paint, you might find difficulties in your workflow. With artist acrylics, where you don't have
things mixed inside for a certain effect, you are in control. You are in control of what's inside that color, because you can mix it in if you need something. Very important when it comes to color is also your health. With very strong pigmented colors like artists' acrylic paints, you should always check back if there's heavy metal inside. For example, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow. These colors got pigments inside that are dangerous for your health. Don't lick your brush, don't paint it to your skin. I also recommend always checking back with your regular hobby paints. Just give it a try once in a while and check back the new paints you buy with a magnet to find out if everything is secure with these. For example, this is Dark Sea Blue by Vallejo. Then there are inks. Inks have a long history in illustration and drawing. Many people know the Chinese and Japanese drawings with inks. Inks have a crazy amount of pigments inside. They are much higher than in regular acrylic paints. They come already a little bit more fluid than the regular paints. They can be diluted with water, and when you thin them with water, they will still keep their pigment power. Inks are often used if you need strong coverage. You can use them for airbrushing, you can use them with a brush. You can also use them for gentle and strong changes by using them as a glaze thinned down with water. You can find paints on the market that combine the effects of normal acrylic paints and inks, for example the Chimera colors. They are super highly pigmented and are great for mixing your own colors, because a higher number of pigment means you can properly mix them without any hassle. Next, there are washes. Washes are very thinned down color. They do have a high amount of water inside. They are very fluid, and they also have some detergent inside to break up the surface tension. They often come in dark tones, so they can, with the dark tonalities and the surface breakup, they can flow into the deeper areas of a model. They are often used for very textured areas like fur or sand or rock or something, to really get depth in there quickly. Next, we have contrast paints and so-called speed paints. They are a mixture from washes and inks. That's all. Next, there are standalone special mediums. Very often in our normal acrylic paints, we have some of these mediums mixed inside. Matte varnish, some different types of varnish, flow improver, or something like that. But you can also buy them standalone to increase the effect in your color, to mix it in, to use it single for certain effects with the airbrush or the brush. And there are also special colors like blood color, a rust color or something like that, that you can work with to create special effects. Can we get to the mixing part now, please? Pretty please? Yes, we do. Finally. It's time to prepare your wet palette, get your color sheet ready, and listen closely.
Advertisement. Check out my Snow Masterclass tutorial. Check out my Masterclass Snow tutorial. Check out my Masterclass Snow tutorial. Check out my Masterclass Snow tutorial.
It's awesome.
If you did not yet download your worksheet, now is the time. Find the link below. Very often I have to answer the question, but what colors can I use for this? What colors can I use for mixing my primaries? Do I need to buy certain ones? I can make the decision easy for you. Go for saturated colors, colors with a lot of color power, not ones that are already pre-mixed or something. Pick out
strong colors, primaries. You can go for your hobby colors and you can also go for artist paints. You will enjoy this lesson more with artist acrylic paints. Your next question would be, is this blue correct? Is this red correct? Is this magenta correct? What color shall I pick? Shall I take this yellow or the other yellow? Stick to the fact that the color just needs strong saturation, power of color. I always say kamehameha of the paint. You need a yellow, red and blue, but with a red and blue you will not be able to properly mix a violet. My recommendation is going for a magenta and a cyan instead. In my example I will show you both ways, with the red and blue and the magenta and cyan. Use your wet palette for mixing and your worksheet for placing the colors you mixed. It helps to place your primary colors on your wet palette in the same way you will do on your worksheet. Place them in a triangle with the tip to the top. Place your primaries on your worksheet too. Very important fact is you don't need much water in your colors. I always speak about color bunkers when it comes to mixing colors. Color bunkers are thick paints. As soon as you dilute your paint with water, the color will not last long on the wet palette. With the water inside, the water will vaporize after some time, but with the color bunkers you can paint on forever. Not forever, but for 2 weeks minimum. They might get a skin from drying, but then you can just flip them around and get some pigments out of them. Water will just dilute your paint and it will look off on your worksheet on the white paper. I recommend placing just the magenta and cyan version on your worksheet and have a close look on the red and blue while I'm mixing and explaining things. Now it's time to mix our secondary colors. A quick tip is, if you start mixing a secondary color and there's yellow involved, start with the yellow. If you start with red or blue, you will have to add a lot of yellow to engage the kamehameha of the blue and the red to finally receive the orange or the green. I basically showed you this example. Sometimes I also do forget about it. I will now show you the version of an orange mixed from magenta and yellow. The difference is not that huge, it's just a small hue of difference in the tonality. Not much to care about. Remember, as soon as you change the color, you also have to clean the brush. Clean the brush with water and take out almost all the water from your brush, so you don't dilute your paints. Now mix your secondary colors and place them in a triangle again on top of your primary colors that you mixed your secondary from. It's getting complicated. Let's go. First, green with both versions of blue. Then trying a violet with red and the dark blue. It will not properly work, just become something brownish. And then magenta and cyan for violet. For pure violet. Place this now to your worksheet. Tertiary colors are mixed by using a primary color and a secondary color, and the color in between those two is a tertiary color. They are placed in a circle around all your triangles. Let me show it to you. For example, by using yellow and orange, we will mix a yellowish orange. Going towards more reddish orange, we have to use magenta and orange. Then we will receive a more reddish orange. Now do the same to create all your other tertiary colors. go the full color wheel, the full circle. Your worksheet should look like this right now. Congratulations! You now achieved a level up. You now know about the bank of colors, the bank of Kamehameha. This is where the power of color comes from. This is where you are in control with using the maximum saturated colors. Powerful, strong colors. Let's talk about the color thieves soon. Speaking about the thieves of color, the thieves of Kamehameha, I do not speak about the regular gray that you can mix from black and white, because we are still in the color wheel. I do not speak about hobby paints that are called neutral gray. In this lesson, I will only speak about mixing a neutral gray from your color wheel to learn the basics of desaturation. Much more is to come in video number 2 about this. Let's check back with the color wheel. I speak about mixing a neutral gray in your color wheel. You can do this by mixing your primaries together. If you look close, the violet is closest to a gray, you can say, the violet from cyan and magenta. Let's start from there. Take some cyan, take some magenta, and mix a violet in the middle of your triangle. Then add a tiny drop of yellow to it. It will turn brownish grayish something. Now you have to check back with the amount that you have to add, the amount of different primaries you have to add to achieve your neutral gray. This might take a moment. It's a little bit of testing. So anytime you feel that it's not grayish, you have to check back with what color is prominent there and then add the one that you are missing. For example, very often it can look like bluish or reddish, and then you have to add yellow. If it looks too yellowish or too greenish, then you have to add red. So far I found one color from Schmincke Aero Color that is called neutral gray and is properly mixed with high intensity of pigments like in ink. It's basically even looking black on the first glance. I also added a drop from a neutral gray hobby color, and it's very far from the original neutral gray. We will speak about that neutral gray in future videos. The big question is now what you can do with all this knowledge. For example, taking your neutral gray and mixing it in one of your colors from your color bank, from the Kamehameha, will always desaturate the color very carefully, very harmonically, because the other colors are already involved in that gray. So if you are in need to find a really good shadow color for a certain saturated color, then go for a neutral gray. Here's an example with green. Of course, this is not only working with green. You can use this with every other color you so far mixed. Give it a try. Test out your neutral gray in all different types of colors now. Enjoy the variety you can create by being in control. You can also separate your color wheel into warm and cold colors. So you can decide for a color scheme that fits well or is in a very strong cold and warm contrast to each other. For part 2, make sure to practice this knowledge gained in this video often. Get used to it, train it. If you're not yet created your own color wheel on your worksheet, then now is the time. Go back to the video and check back with it. Train it. It's all training. It's training a muscle. Do not just buy a color wheel and then say you know something about color theory. You can be in control. In the next part of the series, I will show you how to work with hardcore color thieves, like black, white, and the gray mixed from both. I will speak about complementary colors. I will also show you how you can mix your own skin tone, your very own skin tone, from your color wheel, and much more to come. Stay tuned.
I recommend to you paint one figure with just using your primaries. Of course, you can always step back to the full range of all your color collections and paint with them, make up your miniatures, but I promise you, you will not do any more makeup with your miniatures because you will understand what you paint there even better. You can free yourself from these recipes and paint what you want to paint. You can paint what you want to see in the end. There's absolutely no need to be scared. I'm with you. And I bet you can do this. Trust me, follow along and enjoy that. Tell me in the comments if you enjoyed this first lesson and if it helps you, and I'm looking forward to do the next one. I will put the foot on the gas pedal very soon in the upcoming lessons. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you learned something, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You help us to grow, and thank you very much for your support. Bye bye. Roman out. Keep on happy painting.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up.
We all have too much paints. I got too much paints. For the knowledge I have with using the color wheel, I have way too many paints.
These color bunkers can be produced by using the thick paint that comes. Cat, psst. Momo. Tertiary. What the hell? Tertiary. Tertiary. Fuck. Sorry. Tertiary. I have to check back with Google again.